And I picked up a camera on 24 Hours in Police Custody. Because initially I was like, I don't want to pick it up. It's like, it looks too complicated. There are too many buttons. I was just being lazy. And then I picked it up and I was like, oh my God, I love directing. I love being behind the camera.
Yeah.
And I remember one exec saying to me, well, are you this or are you this? And now we would laugh at her. Love looking at the grey, not the black and white. But I love looking at stories that sit in the grey, that set off some sort of debate, a conversation, however heated or not.
Thanks for joining me today, Poppy.
Thank you for having me.
Obviously, you're about to embark on the second round of Brown Girls Do It Too on tour.
Yeah.
How does it feel in the run-up to tackling Edinburgh Fringe Festival? Because I feel like that's pretty major.
I can't swear, can I?
Go ahead.
Okay.
We'll bleep it.
You'll bleep it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm absolutely shitting myself. I can't quite believe that we're doing Edinburgh, because I was told people do it the other way around. They do Edinburgh, then they do Soho. And we did Soho Theatre, and that felt quite, it felt like a really new territory for us. Brown women, black women in spaces, in theatre spaces, no less. It didn't feel like our playground. So we broke the seal, but I feel like Edinburgh is a completely different kettle of fish. I've been as a punter, but I've never been as a performer. I've already asked people for advice. People are like, eat vegetables.
Eat vegetables? How come?
Because you're just constantly drinking and going out and just meeting people and partying that you forget to eat. Someone said, you're going to put on weight. Someone said, fringe flu by second week. I'm literally getting like a dossier of advice on what to do and what not to do. And I am worried if I'm going to lose my voice, because that tends to be the first thing that goes.
Maybe, yeah. And are you kind of excited about kind of reuniting on stage for this like new iteration of Brown Girls Do It Too?
I mean, Brown Girls Do It Too, out of everything I do in my career, it's probably the thing that gives me the most excitement. Like, it sounds really lame to say, but like it's the most impactful work that I do. It pays the least. But it's always the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Rubina and I got together and we did a series of previews at Soho Theatre. Then we're going to Edinburgh to do a whole month. And the show's already changing. It's changed so much. And we're going to Edinburgh feeling a little bit underprepared, but I think most people think that now. I think most performers, God, I can't believe I'm calling myself a performer. It's so lame. This is the other thing. The other thing. It's like, when we first did the podcast, when we first did the show, we were like, we're not performers. We're just here. It's like a side project. It's a side hustle. Like, we're not even supposed to be here. What are we doing here? Okay, we did it. And then our theatre director, who's brilliant, Sam, he's like, you need to stop saying that, because A, you sound lame, and B, you are writers. You are performers. You've performed. You've toured the whole country. You've done a 3-week run at Soho Theatre. And so now we're like, oh, but it was such a good joke. And now we can't say that. And now you always sound pretentious. You know, like you're with theatre people and they're doing all the theatre things. And you're like, oh, this is so not me. And then we're like doing the same things they're doing. And you're like, oh my God. So we're taking it to Edinburgh Fringe for a month. And then we come back to London. And then Walthamstow, which I don't know if you've been to the venue, Morgan, but you've been?
Yeah.
It's massive.
It is massive.
I mean, no way we're going to fill 950 people. Like, I mean, our Asians, we roll in big families. So I'm going to have to ask every cousin, everyone to come.
Never say never.
Never say never. But we are, to fill that space is we're not going to fill that space, but it's a bit of a homecoming, because I'm a Walthamstow girl. I'm a Waltham Forest girl. So it's like, feels like a bit of a kind of a closure.
I love that.
Bringing it back home.
Because the first of shows that you've done at Soho Theatre in Soho were kind of like your like breeding ground. It was a bit experimental, wasn't it? Trying to get feedback from people. Yeah. So how's that kind of been in like getting that feedback and adapting it for the show that you're going to take on the road to Edinburgh?
I also just want to say, as an aside, I love an interviewer who's done their bloody research.
Thank you. Thanks.
So we started doing this thing called like, I think we call them Brown Girls Do It Too ambassadors. We wanted to involve the local community, grassroots organizations, predominantly South Asian women who felt like they didn't have a voice. Because something Rubina says is that there were so many sex and relationship podcasts when we came out. It just felt radical for us, because it's such a taboo in our community. Like, I cannot tell you, even though there's like 1 billion Indian people, so we're definitely having sex, right? Yeah. But it's such a stigma and it's such a taboo. So to even have two, I mean, initially when we started, it was three of us. Yeah. To talk about sex in the way we did, which is really disgusting, candid, and
hilarious.
Thank you. And someone said it was like like being in a slumber party, not slumber, like a sleepover.
Yeah.
And so like when we had the ambassadors, they got involved and they told us, but we get so many DMs.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We get so many DMs from women, and actually it was through the DMs that we realised this is what this show could be. And it's an homage to Goodness Gracious Me. I don't know if it's a sketch show. It's absolutely seminal. I still think, and it's sad, I still think that's probably the one show that really represented us. And you know, you wouldn't get a Goodness Gracious Me now. Would it work? I don't even know. But like, we wanted to include women in our show, and not just South Asian women. We've had black women, white women who've come to our show and said, we understand our Asian boyfriends and our Asian best friends better because of this show. And also it speaks to the female experience.
Exactly.
Obviously it's South Asian facing, but it's just what it means to be a woman in this day and age.
Yeah.
And I think through a mixture of chat and sketch, I mean, we act badly and sing badly. I mean, I'm not really selling this show really well, am I? We wanted to give you more than just you coming on and seeing two people talking on stage.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's like, theatre is not necessarily a welcome space for people from minority ethnic backgrounds. Why would they pay that price when they could hear us talk for free on a podcasting platform?
Exactly, yeah.
So we were like, in true Asian style, we're like, we're going to be A-star, we're going to give the show and dance, jazz hands. And it's just been really interesting to see how the show's changed and evolved, because we started out as girls and now we're women.
I love that. And obviously part of the come up of the series as well, the podcast series, I should say, has been, obviously, it initially wasn't recommissioned by the BBC, right? And then you won quite a few awards. You also featured on the High Low podcast, which kind of goes back to what you were saying of like this wider audience that you've managed to tap into. Obviously, it's by South Asian women, like predominantly for South Asian women, but you've got this whole cluster of white women that also love the podcast.
I just love, you know more about our podcast than I do. It's so fascinating that you said that, because we were basically cast like the Spice Girls. We were put together like the Spice Girls, okay? And we're probably like more like Atomic Kitten or Sugar Babes. But anyway.
Oh, Sugar Babes.
Sugar Babes, yeah, Sugar Babes. And we were then met in the BBC canteen. We had chemistry and off we went. We did 6 episodes.
Okay.
And honest to God, it was like, shake your hand to the other 2 girls, Rubina and Roya, said, I'll probably see you once a year. Goodbye. And, you know, they say awards mean nothing, but we won the British Podcast Awards, and we won in our category, and then we won overall.
Yeah.
And that completely changed our trajectory, because BBC Asia Network were not going to commission us.
Wow.
They only recommissioned us because of this podcast. It was really interesting sitting under BBC Asia Network, because I think their listener is older and probably a lot more conservative.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of backlash. We got a lot of trolls.
Wow.
And a lot. And our first show is about those trolls.
Yeah.
The second show we've moved on, but it's just really interesting to see how our own community took us. But it was young girls like you from the South Asian community, from minority ethnic communities, who are like, these girls are talking in a way that, like, I don't even talk to my mates this way.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, like, we spoke the way we did because we thought no one was going to listen.
Yeah.
You know, it's the 6 girls in Bradford, 2 girls in Leicester, 1 girl in Birmingham, job done. And then High Low opened us up to a predominantly white, you know, middle class posh audience. Like, we were just, we had no idea. And then also when I think even my posh friends knew what I was doing, had no idea that I had a podcast, but knew I had a podcast with Rubina through listening to the High Low.
Oh, wow.
So it was just...
It was put on their radar.
It was put on their radar. And then when we went to GK Barry's podcast, which is quite recent, I mean, I had the influx of my white friends being like, oh my God, you're on GK Barry. And I'm like, God, I really need to plug into this like white world. It has opened us. And then we were on The Guilty Feminist as well.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's really been interesting because me and Rubina feel that we're not necessarily accepted by the establishment within the South Asian community.
Interesting.
And the people that we are accepted by are the same people in the South Asian community that listen to BBC One Extra, that are listen to Represent Radio. Like, they are consuming the same culture that we're consuming.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, they're not necessarily going to like an Asian space to get their South Asian content, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And how has it been like kind of dealing with, obviously you've like you're not doing the podcast as we know at the moment. You're obviously touring. But how has it been in your podcasting career dealing with kind of the trolls and the backlash also from your own community, as you say?
That's a really good question. So the trolls, because I'm made of thick crocodile skin, I was just like, whatever. It did affect my other two co-hosts.
Yeah.
But my two sisters stopped talking to me when an episode came out about danger wanking. Taken out of context, classic, clickbait, viral, all that.
Yeah.
All that rubbish. And they saw it on, like a shade borough.
Yeah.
They saw it on like the South Asian equivalent.
Okay.
And then their friends were like, "Is this your sister?" So that's how they found out. It was not great. And I hadn't told them about the podcast.
Yeah.
I hadn't told them about the fact that I was doing a sex podcast. Because in the group chat, I was like, it's going to be too much because they're going to come at me. So I need to do it individually. But because there's 6 of us, well, there's one of 6.
Yeah.
I just got lazy.
Oh,
but
no.
it bit me in the bum big time, right? So when the trolling is happening from someone I know, it really affects me. When it comes from strangers, it's
like water off a duck's back.
Water off a duck's back. And it's also really funny. Some of them are really funny.
I can imagine.
They're actually really, really creative. And we've used them in the show. We've used some of them. One guy, I Raw UK, he said nobody cares about Asians.
Oh, wow.
And this is the other thing as well I was going to say, like, the cultural cachet and the cool factor of South Asians, we were never seen as cool. Like, and then we talk about this in the show. There's a whole sketch about rude boys, about brown boys.
Yeah.
This idea. Like, I used to wear a headscarf in school as a geriatric millennial, and I thought I spoke patois because it was such a big. All my friends were black.
Yeah.
We completely consumed black culture because it was black excellence, whether it's hip hop, R&B. So,
and you grew up in Tower Hamlets.
And I grew up in Tower Hamlets, and then I went to Waltham. Forest. So it's like it was so natural to us, and we talk about we've written a sketch about these brown boys who are like these rude boys, and everyone has a rude boy in their life, and it's, I guess each sketch is kind of reflecting a different part of our lives and where we are. And it's just been so great to see this community and this tribe of women that we've built, because I think South Asian women are so starved of content. We've got amazing and incredible male brown South Asian comedians, but where are the brown ladies at? And I think certainly there was this hunger, because when I'm trauma bonding with all these brown women in the Soho Theatre bar, they're like, you know, where were you when I was 16? It's like, bruv, where was I when I was 16?
Yeah.
Who did we have?
Yeah.
We didn't have those role models. And I think the tide is changing now.
No, 100%.
Especially with social media.
And I think also, like, one of the great parts of the podcast is obviously how honest you both are.
Too honest.
Within your own experiences. But obviously you've been so upfront and honest about arranged marriage, divorce at a young age, and kind of like navigating maybe like a newfound identity, like a little bit later in womanhood. How's it been kind of like platforming such raw and open honesty on such a big platform?
It feels really cathartic and quite therapeutic, because I think for so long the Asian community feel a lot more fragmented, and rightly or wrongly. I mean, you might disagree. Like, I always talk to my black mates, and I'm like, you guys, there's a sort of a collectivism there that I don't feel that there is with the Asian community, because you could draw a beef mind map of like the Punjabis don't like the Gujaratis, the Pakistanis don't like the Bangladeshis don't like the Indians don't like the Kashmiris. It's like there's again, I think the tide is changing, but I think that and it was fresh material for our show, but like the geopolitics of back home, the motherland that we bring with us, the fragmentation within the communities, and like I said, it is changing, but it feels so slow. And because I'm a geriatric millennial, I grew up with some of those hang-ups. Yeah, definitely.
Because you're also a product of your environment.
Yes.
And if they're the hang-ups of your parents or like your elders, then you're living in and around that as well.
Totally.
How has it been like? I guess obviously you've been so open and honest with your podcast and in touring and in that side. Like, it's almost like the passion part of your career, right? Your day-to-day, like your 9 to 5 as a director, producer, how have you managed to kind of bring that raw open honesty into the work that you're doing in the TV industry?
I think that's a really good question. I think the raw and open honesty started with TV first.
Okay.
It's kind of how I've always been, because I grew up in a community that constantly said, don't do anything because what will people think? Manusha kita hoiba. In Bengali, that means what will people think? So my whole life, I was constantly told, you have to act a certain way, you have to be a certain way, you have to be obedient, you have to dress right, you have to be a good girl. And I broke from that after my divorce. I think that my divorce when I was 25 was a sort of a key pivotal moment, because I just thought I can't keep doing this and living a life for other people.
Exactly.
And then that's when I said to I was always too honest, and I would always get into trouble by uncles, my mum, the aunties. But that's when I thought I'm going to use that in my job. So I always try to be honest, sometimes too honest. And I always try to be as candid as I can. And that, I think, has spilled over to the podcast. And genuinely, it was just so therapeutic and cathartic having 3 girls, in the studio on the 8th floor of the BBC, just like whispering and talking like it was a sleepover. Like, 'cause I hadn't even talked to my best friends as openly as I did with those girls.
Well, because sometimes it's easier to talk to a relative stranger. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So can you tell me a bit about your TV career? Because I feel like even just the fact that you managed to balance a whole TV career with doing this is just almost a bit insane. But how have you managed to do that? And also, what was your kind of route into TV? Was it always something that you knew that you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I, like most Asians, thought I was going to be a doctor. So I worked in a hospital. I worked in the NHS. I had a real job. And then I realised medicine was not for me. It required a certain level of discipline that I just did not have. And I applied, back then, in 2010, the BBC Academy had lots of money.
Okay.
So I applied for this internship for journalism. I got in, which was amazing. And then my mentor at the time said, you need to just bite the bullet and do a master's in journalism. So I did that. Then I worked in radio news for a short time. And I realised news wasn't for me. It was like today's news, tomorrow's toilet paper. And I just wasn't quick enough. I was like, you've got to be bashing on the phones.
Very reactive.
Very, very reactive. And I thought I was quick, but clearly not quick enough. And then in 2013, I got a call. It's the first and last job I got like this, through this database called the Talent Manager, where all TV people, we all signed up to the Talent Manager. And it was, they were looking for a researcher for a documentary about the Rana Plaza factory disaster in Bangladesh. I think around 2013, there was a massive collapse of this big factory, this clothing factory, and they were looking for someone Bengali. And then obviously I smashed that job and got an AP credit. And so I never looked back. So in 2013, I started working in documentaries. Yeah. And then this is slightly embarrassing, but I'll say it because I'm okay with it. I really wanted to be a reporter.
Okay, yeah.
I wanted to be a news reporter. And I was like, my time's going to come. My time's going to come. It's going to come. And it never came because I was constantly being passed, the opportunities were going to other predominantly white reporters. I came up in this period where social media was about to explode. 2012 sort of, it was, Twitter, YouTube. And I just didn't go that way. So I was sort of waiting for this career that never came really. And then in 2019, so sort of working my way up the various different chains within the documentary world. And I picked up a camera on 24 Hours in Police Custody. Because initially I was like, I don't want to pick it up. It's like, it looks too complicated. There are too many buttons. I was just being lazy. And then I picked it up and I was like, oh my God, I love directing. I love being behind the camera. Yeah. And I think the reality is, when you come from a working class background, don't let the teeth and the accent fool you, and your parents are poor and you grew up poor, you are constantly told it's that immigrant working mentality. You have to work 4 times as hard. And also we're in the hustle culture, right? Like you're constantly doing as much as you can to get noticed.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I was like, and I'm sure you've got many strings to your bow. Yeah. It's like, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do. And I remember one exec saying to me, well, are you this or are you this? And now we would laugh at her.
Exactly.
We would laugh at her for saying that. But back in 2013, so I had to have 2 separate CVs.
Oh, wow.
One for presenting and one for just producing. Yeah. Because people could not fathom the idea that you could do both and you could code switch.
Yeah.
Today I'm a presenter, tomorrow I'm an AP, tomorrow I'll be a runner, then I'll be a researcher. Yeah. So I sort of, and also I definitely have self-diagnosed ADHD. I love the variety.
Yeah.
I loved the variety. And then I started directing, loved directing. And then it was on 24 Hours in Police Custody that I did Brown Girls Do It Too. So I don't recommend this for anyone, but burning out basically, doing these long hours. I've done every job you can possibly think of in TV. I've been an AP, I've been a researcher, I've been a producer, I've been an undercover reporter, I've been a reporter, I've been a presenter, I've been a radio host, I've been a podcast host, I've worked in theatre, and I've directed. Is there anything else I've left behind?
There's no point asking what's next.
I love directing. I don't want to go. I don't necessarily see myself working up beyond directing. I love holding. It's probably the one directing and performing are probably the two scariest. Performing is probably more, but like the most nerve-wracking thing and most challenging thing I've ever done in my career. Performing probably takes it to the top. Like being on stage, performing live, it's so exposing and you feel so vulnerable. Also, you want to make people laugh. And when they're not laughing.
When it's just silence.
We had one show, oh my God, it was 41, not 40, 41. Rubina kept saying 40. I'm like, get it right, you're missing one person. 41 much older South Asian people who came to this show.
Yeah.
And because they were older, you know, I could assume they could afford the tickets. We could see them because in the front two rows. Gosh. In Soho Theatre, you can't see anything beyond the second row. The lights go down. Yeah. And they were old. They were they were much older. I'm not being ageist, but they were not our usual target demographic. And some of the women had headscarves, so they were quite, religious.
Yeah.
We do get a few people coming in wearing headscarves, and they're quite progressive. But they were auntie age, we were like, oh God, how this is going to go? And they were just sitting there like staring, and we could see their face.
Oh no!
There's a bit at the live show. I don't want to give it away, but something happens, and I say to the audience, we always said we were going to be honest with you, and then 3 men in the middle of the show walked out. 3 of these guys walked out, and when you have walkouts. I think they were our first walkout. It really gets you.
Yeah. So especially when you can see them.
Especially when you can see them, exactly. So we always said we were going to be honest in the podcast. So honest, in fact, 3 men walked out. It turns out they only went out to go to the toilet and have a cigarette. The steward didn't allow them back in.
Oh, no.
So I was like, I'm so sorry. I threw
So they were actually loving the show.
They were like, but then I found out they were a singles and divorced South Asian group.
Oh, wow.
And one of the ringleader, the ringleader, she organizes these events, and they had never seen the show, never seen the podcast. And I was like, did you like it? They were like, yeah, we loved it. And I was like, well, why was your face like this?
They were just taking it in.
They were taking it in. They were taking it in.
It was a baptism of fire.
It was a baptism of fire. They were taking it all in. It was just all new. So basically, don't judge a book by its cover, which is what I did.
I feel like also that's a pretty fitting like statement for your career in general, because I feel like you're one of the only, maybe I'm mistaken, but you're one of the only self-shooting directors that I've seen in the current like British documentary space in terms of like mainstream TV. How has it felt like, obviously you've just recently been nominated for an Edinburgh TV Award for a TV presenter as well. And that is, obviously you've been director, producer and presenter on that documentary. How has it felt to be recognised for all of those roles in your most recent doc?
So firstly, there is another a documentary director called Dia Khan who does that, and I've been inspired by her. She does that same kind of authored style. And Grace was the producer on Young British and Anti-Abortion, so credit goes to her. But I guess it's like, let me tell you, presenting and then presenting and directing are 2 unbelievably different skills. I'm sorry. Like I sometimes I work as a presenter. Like they don't come thick and fast, those offers, but like I do. And it's like you put on a bit of makeup. It's a different skill. Yeah. I totally appreciate that. But when you're holding a camera and you got to keep it in focus and you're sweating buckets.
Think about framing.
And think about framing lighting, and composition and lighting and the questions and listening and the follow-up questions. It's just, there's a lot going on. But I love being challenged. So I'm like, bring it. I love that sort of authored style. I can't take credit for. Dia Khan started it, Molly Deneen. But it's something I love being able to combine the two. Like it's authored, but it's also about you, and I'm following you, and it's my interaction with you. So it feels quite Gonzo, Nick Broomfield-esque. But women doing it,
I know, yeah.
Not always a guy doing it.
Yeah, and I think also when it comes to such important subject matter as well, like I feel like that whole documentary was so topical. Yeah. So like I feel like there were so many topics that were broached in it that are so relevant to the conversations about reproductive rights that we should and are having like right now. How was it to kind of do all of that in terms of like interviewing, thinking about framing, lighting, while also dealing with like such sensitive subject matter?
Oh God, that's a really good question. Have a brilliant team with you. The production team I'm with, the production team I was working with was so good. And I don't know what it's like in your experience, but in TV, you're not allowed to fail.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to make mistakes. And then when you're from a minority ethnic community and you fail, it's all word of mouth in my industry. So it's like, oh, don't hire Poppy. She screwed up.
Yeah.
So it's through making, and I always say this, it's through making mistakes that you learn to be creative. And we were actually still, because I did another documentary with Acme Films called Queen of Rap. Queens of Rap. And I went out there and I made 2 documentaries. I made 2 different styles behind the exec's back because I love taking risks.
Yeah.
I'm really ballsy that way, but I don't think the industry is. They want a safe pair of hands. They want a BAFTA nominated or BAFTA winning director, usually white, usually male, who is guaranteed to bring them success. And what is happening now is we're not breaking new talent.
Yeah.
So we went out there and I made a talking head and archive doc. And then I made this doc, what you saw in Young British Anti-Abortion. And my exec, I mean, testament to him, he didn't even clock that I could be even on screen. But me and the editor, this incredible editor called Zeb, put together a 10-minute reel, showed it to him, and he's in the office laughing his head off. He's like, oh, Poppy, you're funny, you know. And I'm like, obviously. And that's how that idea was born.
Oh, wow.
And then with Young British and Anti-Abortion, like, I am great and my skills are on location, on the shoot.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you said. It's like being sensitive. Because when you meet someone and they have a very different opinion to you, it's very easy to get riled up. But the moment you get riled up, you've cut the access.
Yeah. And you didn't get riled up once.
Oh my God.
I feel like you kept at least in what we saw, you kept so calm.
My friends who know me well, they were like, your face. Because they were like, your face needs subtitles. I was like, so you're telling me? Like I think if you know me, you could tell.
Yeah.
But I think what I've realized is if you go in if you go in hard, people put their backs up. I am pro-abortion, but I wanted to go into a space where they could trust me and see if they could change my mind.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, and be as open-minded as I could. There were some things that I absolutely didn't agree on them with. For example, abortion in the cases of rape is absolutely totally permissible and should be allowed, but they were against that. But I think if you're going to be directing documentaries and you go in there with your opinions and you're angry and annoyed, then you have lost access. And there's a time and place to challenge people, and I think that's what I'm learning. And do that at the end of the film when you've got, because you want to go on a journey with them.
Exactly, yeah. And I feel like in that documentary you definitely did. Like I feel like, as you said, as a viewer, you're watching it thinking, not if my mind can be changed, but like I want it, like I'm intrigued to hear your point of view. And then, like obviously it's like people will come out of the documentary thinking different things. And like, I just feel like it started up quite an interesting conversation about the fact that there are young people who do hold these views and it isn't necessarily a representation we've seen on TV before. I think the same can kind of be said of when you directed Young Black and Right Wing as well, of a similar thinking of like going into it, not necessarily thinking, can my mind be changed, but surprised, should I say, that there are people who hold these views. How was it working on that as well?
So that was really, really interesting. I worked with Zizi Mills, who's a brilliant talent. And it's actually, and I hope Zizi won't mind me saying this, it's from Zizi that I learnt to try and, because there's a first scene with her and a young Tory where they absolutely explode. And then we have to bring, and I could see how much that shifted. And that was a lesson for me because I could totally see myself doing as easy and being like, what are you saying? Because this, I can't remember the exact conversation, but I think this young contributor was saying institutional racism doesn't exist. And of course, anyone hearing that will be like, what?
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? That gave me the training that I needed for Young British and Anti-Abortion. Because, because we can be so stuck in our echo chamber. Whether through algorithms, social media, your friendship groups. And it's like, people like that do exist. People who are your age, younger than me, older than me, have these opinions. Why do they have these opinions? And it is really up to each of us to ask questions. I think we live in a society where we are not critical, we don't ask questions, sometimes can be quite preachy and pontificatey. And it was an interesting exercise because, through Zizi, trying to find out why have you come to this conclusion?
Exactly.
What has happened in your life where you have this set of opinions? And finding some common ground. Did they find common ground? I don't know. Did I find common ground with the contributors? No, but that's okay. But I understood them better.
Yeah.
And they were really lovely people. You could absolutely have a drink with them in the pub, but I it helped me understand them, and I think understand each other. And I think that's what we're missing, because we're so polarized now as a society.
And I feel like you've obviously, just even talking about just those two documentaries alone, you like, if you're looking at those as part of your TV experience, I feel like it already paints such a picture of the kind of intention behind the documentaries that you're choosing to work on. What are kind of your hopes for the kinds of like stories that you're hoping to platform and cover in documentaries going forward?
That is such a good question. I love looking at the grey. So like young British and anti-abortion, although I'm pro-abortion, you know, even when I spoke to people who are pro-abortion, there's a sliding scale.
Yeah.
You know, they were like 24 weeks fine, but I would feel weird at 30 something weeks. But even when you have people who are who are going through abortions at that late, it's because there's a serious risk to the mother. You know, they're not taking that decision lightly. So someone said this to me, and I'm going to steal her quote, but it's like, I love looking at the grey, not the black and white. But I love looking at stories that sit in the grey, that set off some sort of debate, a conversation, however heated or not. And I think that's the kind of stories that I'd love to explore.
Yeah. And in terms of, obviously from my standpoint, it's definitely like, in terms of racial diversity in TV, you know, you can look at a drama series, for instance, and you can maybe see like a majority black-led cast, for instance, but behind the scenes it looks completely different. It can be a majority white behind the scenes team. How has it been in your experience in terms of working in the documentary space, but also, like you said, being a camera operator as well? Do you feel like the tides are turning in terms of the kinds of people that we're seeing behind the camera in unscripted?
Yes, I mostly hire women, and I work with women from minority ethnic backgrounds.
Yeah.
I will always do that going forward. I think the tide is turning, and I think I noticed, certainly amongst my black colleagues, post BLM, so post George Floyd and BLM, I feel like a lot of us were enabled and empowered to speak out about all the microaggressions that we experienced within our community. I don't think enough change has happened, frankly, but certainly I am seeing more directors, producers from a minority ethnic background. I don't think it's enough. I still think that we need to see more of us.
Yeah.
But the tide is turning. But in terms of representation and the D word, diversity, I mean, that's just a conversation that we keep having all the time. And honestly, it's getting so boring.
Yeah, and it's almost the thing of like we have to continue having these, like, quite frankly, tiring conversations about diversity because it isn't the norm.
Yeah.
How have those conversations been from a behind the scenes perspective? Because obviously you're almost using your position of power with being a director and producer and to be able to say, I want to only work with women of color. Obviously, other directors and producers maybe don't feel as comfortable doing that. How has it been navigating those behind the scenes conversations about diversity?
It's really interesting. I wouldn't have had these conversations. I wouldn't have felt brave to have those conversations like even 5-10 years ago. I honestly think COVID, BLM, Sarah Everard, you know, those big Me Too, those big movements has really compelled a lot of my female colleagues, directors, to speak out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have, not that I'm at the top of my game or anything, but I'm just I've got a big gob, I've got a big mouth. And I think execs can see that. Like today I had a meeting, it was like an interview with someone. And I said to the exec, are you considering you considering a diverse cast for this?
Yeah.
You know, and it's something I always bring in constantly. And I always remind people that I am brown and I am expecting for you to have a diverse cast.
100%.
Like, and if you don't, why don't you?
Yeah.
I worked on a production which was incredible. It was the first time I'd seen 4 execs. I mean, they were all white women, but we've got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
4 execs, all mothers, job sharing.
Oh.
And it was a location job, and I'd never seen that. Because what happens in our industry is the moment you have kids, you have to do a 9 to 5 because you got to stay with it. So there's a big chasm, and men get to go gallivanting around the world and doing and do all these cool travelogue, just doing cool directing jobs. And mums tend to be at home with the kids. But this job sharing thing isn't happening as quick as
it should.
I'm just basically really impatient, and I'm like, can we just get here already?
No, I mean 100%. I feel the same way. But it's kind of the thing of, yeah, like you said, it's having to have those conversations and being forthright about them in the first place. How has it also been like, I'm assuming anyway, that maybe a lot of young women of color coming into the industry have maybe been inspired by seeing you as like a self-shooting producer and director as well. Have you received any kind of messages that like have stood out to you, or that like girls have been like, I've been really inspired to follow this path into TV because of you?
I get more young women messaging me for the podcast.
Okay, yeah.
It's interesting that you say that, actually, because obviously there's the National Film School, which is the Oxbridge of, but getting into that is so competitive.
Yeah.
And the way I learned was on the job through these big productions, like 24 Hours in Police Custody, 24 Hours in A&E, Ambulance, 999, What's Your Emergency? That's how we all learn. And I think for young APs, producers, I mean, not young and old, but people coming up, they learn their craft on these big productions. But I don't know how many of those productions are still going, because that's our university. That's where we learn. And I would love to speak to an AP or a producer coming up being like, how do you get your big break? Because those shows are so few and far between. But certainly all my female TV friends, TV director friends are incredible. Women, when we stick together, we are so supportive. I mean, Claire Richards runs We Are Doc Women, which is a group for female directors. And I think there is this real sense of sharing skills. I remember all my mentors are women. When I was in America, I'd call one of my mates, be like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'd take a photo of the shot and the frame, and she would basically direct me directing in New York. It's like having a good mentor or a network of people to help you is what I would definitely recommend to anyone coming up.
I'm just intrigued to know, like, would you ever, like, the kind of candid way that you talk about sex, dating, relationships on the podcast, would you ever hope to turn that into a TV format, given your experience?
Well, it's funny you should say that. We were, Brown Girls Do It Too was optioned for a drama.
Love that.
And we'd love to. Me and Rubina are talking to a company. We want to make the Brown I May Destroy.
Oh my God, I love that.
We make the Brown I May Destroy with a bit of Fleabag. I mean, that would be iconic for me. But yeah, no, absolutely. We're in talks. So,
oh my God.
Yeah.
So that would obviously be a drama. Would you want to be involved in it in any way, in a behind the scenes?
Yeah, I would love to. Rubina and I would love to write an episode or a few episodes, and I would love to direct, because I want to get into drama.
Yeah, nice.
So this is the thing, probably with ADHD, it's like I've done this, but
time
like
to tackle the next thing.
Time, yeah. I mean, I still want to. I need to learn my craft. I've got a lot to learn in documentary, but one day in the future, I'd love to direct an episode of like a Brown Girls Do It Too episode.
Oh my God, I love that. I guess obviously as part of Pass the Mic, it's the whole point of also actually passing the mic. Who would you hope that you'd want to pass the mic to, i.e. for us to do our next interview with?
Oh, I've got to give you a name of someone.
Yeah.
Ooh. I think you should talk to my friend Tamara Answer.
Okay.
She's a producer and she's also a writer. And I don't know how much I could say, but she's writing a drama, and you should absolutely speak to her because she is so talented and so brilliant. And again, such a good example of someone who has so many strings to her bow, and it's like getting the opportunities, having the mic and being able to use it. So she is my next person.
Okay, bro. Well, I'll tell her to pop you something. Bro, thank you.